We're at Hill End and just getting some different viewpoints to start off. This is a new display in here, the Hill End Heritage Centre. Let's have a look inside.
Hill End, near Bathurst, New South Wales, is a ghost town. Only a memorial reminds 150 residents of the days of the gold discovery that boomed the town to 30,000 people. Now gold is being fought again. Prospectors hand their claims to the golden stakes which might mean a fortune. There are many who say there is still a lot of gold at Hill End, where over £1 million worth was won in the 70s.
In 1953, Donald Friend wrote, "Since I've been away, there was discovered a great collection of photographs made at the behest of Holterman. These photographs documented the whole town. It is rather startling to compare the men and their looks and even the clothes they wore with our present inhabitants, as they gather in a pub in the evenings. They don't seem to have changed even their costumes much in that time. And the photographs of groups of people in the town, as it then was, carry a conviction that a pleasant, rough and matey sort of code of personal relationships prevailed, which is the essence of Hill End's present code of behaviour. Something simple and rough, a little stupid, very tolerant of individual eccentricity in people who have been accepted into the community." Yes, sir. Till the past week, the works in connection with the men in the shafts. I have to push about 30 tons a quarter. In 1953, Donald Friend wrote, "Since I've been away, there was discovered a great collection of photographs made at the behest of Holterman. These photographs documented the whole town. It is rather startling to compare the men and their looks and even the clothes they wore with our present inhabitants, as they gather in a pub in the evenings. They don't seem to have changed even their costumes much in that time. And the photographs of groups of people in the town, as it then was, carry a conviction that a pleasant, rough and matey sort of code of personal relationships prevailed, which is the essence of Hill End's present code of behaviour. Something simple and rough, a little stupid, very tolerant of individual eccentricity in people who have been accepted into the community."
Hi, here we are again today. We're out at the Hill End Festival this time. Some lovely history here in Hill End, and it looks like there's quite a crowd here today, so hopefully we'll have some good things to share with you today.
And there's been a lot of development, hasn't there, in the exhibitions?
There certainly has. We've just gone through the Discovery Centre, and it's absolutely amazing the displays they have in there and the interactive technology that they've got there for to bring both the history and the future together.
What is now Hill End was originally a part of the Tambura area. In the 1850s, the Hill End area was known as Bald Hills. In 1860, a village was proclaimed, first as Forbes, then in 1862 it was altered to Hill End. In the early 1870s, Hill End took over Tambura as the main town in the area. It's the weekend of the 13th and 14th of April 2019, and the Hill End Festival is in full swing, with the theme in keeping with the historic aspects of the gold rush town. Hill End owes its existence to the New South Wales gold rush of the 1850s, and at its peak in the 1870s. It had a population estimated at 8,000, served by 2 newspapers, 5 banks, 8 churches and 28 pubs. Gold fever really caught on when Bernhard Holderman discovered and unearthed a 630-pound rock containing more than 75% gold from Hill End. This was in 1872.
This old house, she's quite the keeper, quite the keeper of you. But I will go if you ask me to. I will stay if you dare. Oh, and if I go, I'm going crazy.
Staff from Parks and Wildlife Services and local people acted as guides to the large crowd that attended during the weekends. There are a wide diversity of different activities, including some fun activities for children.
It's a paper plate.
Monica, this is a great day. Now that looks nice. Tell me a little bit about what's going on today, Monica.
It's called the End Festival, and it's run in conjunction with Bathurst Regional Council, but the real organisers are New South Wales Parks and Wildlife Service and New South Wales Tourism.
Excellent.
And they are absolutely behind this, and it's growing and growing. It's getting bigger and better every year. Tell us about the theme this year, Julie.
Well, the theme is actually picked up on the actual heritage, historic living village that is Hill End. So the actual entertainment area actually replicates those beautiful buildings that you're actually documenting. So it's continuing the heritage, Monica. Reimagining the heritage. Thank you, Lauren. Lauren is the person behind this incredible
It's contemporary
event.
heritage, we like to call it.
Right.
You put them up specially.
And you'd be
Yes, they were built on site, so that structure up there was built on
Right.
Monday.
Oh,
And
isn't it great?
it's the End Hotel, which replicates the Royal Hotel.
Right. That is
Yes.
great. And the crowd here today, that's
Great
astounding.
mix, yeah. They come from far and wide, so
Yes.
we get a majority of people from Sydney and surrounds.
Yes.
And so the festival's got a great reputation.
And we've had other festivals going on nearby too, the Safala Festival.
Yes.
And then last week we went out to the Millthorpe Market. So,
And they're all really connected. You know,
Yes.
the more festivals we have in this region, the more visitors we have, and the more word we get out about how wonderful they are. So thank you. Yeah.
that's wonderful. Well, thank you,
Thanks,
Annie.
Ross.
That's great. Thank you, Monica. This is a novel idea, using old suitcases to make speaker enclosures. Nancy, you have a novel idea here with old suitcases.
Thank you, yes.
Tell me about them.
So they're actually a Bluetooth speaker.
Excellent.
So I've recycled as much as I can to create these. They come with a lithium battery that provides about 30 hours worth of playtime before you recharge it. I've basically recycled the lovely old vintage suitcases.
Yes.
I've recycled all the speakers out of the old, the old box speakers.
Yes. And they give good,
sort of upcycling.
good resonance too in their
Yeah,
ear cavity.
absolutely.
Yes. And is this your first time exhibiting at Hill End, or you?
We were here last year with my husband's ceramics.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Right. So you would find these sort of days are worthwhile.
Yeah, they're lots of fun. Always
Yes.
lots of fun, yes.
Yes, that's for sure, and lots of people here
Yes,
today.
so far so good. Beautiful weather too.
Yes. Well, thank you very much for your
very welcome.
information.
Thank you so much.
That's it. Hold your fingers on.
Hill End's decline when the gold gave out was dramatic. By 1945, the population was down to 700. At the 2000 year census, Hill End had a population of 166, which now has dropped down to 80 people during the year 2017.
It's nice to get the weather.
Yes, yeah. And real seasons with real colours.
In October 1862, the telegraph line reached Hill End. The telegraph office opened for telegraph messages, bringing the remote town into instant communication with the rest of the colony. Prior to this event, communication took 12 hours by the mail stagecoach to Bathurst.
And guess what? One of the older cameras, plate glass camera, and a chair there for the subject. Chris and Sue, you have certainly an attraction there. Chris, could you tell me about him?
It's actually a girl.
Girl, right.
Her name is Azara.
Right.
She's a green wing macaw.
Right.
And but she's born in Australia, but she is from her species is from South America.
Yes.
But
So she does a lot of talking.
yeah, she talks and she's very, very intelligent. Loves getting out. Very social.
Right.
But lots of work though.
Yes.
Don't recommend it unless you've got lots of time.
Yes. And you both look after him? Yes.
Yep.
And is this your first time to Hill End? Or?
No, we literally live here.
Oh, do you? Yes. It looks a wonderful place to live. Do you find that the case?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, we've been in Bathurst region for years. So.
Yes. Oh, that is great. Well, thank you so much.
Great-great-grandfather came here during the gold rush and
right.
We were away for 150 years, but we're back.
You're back again. Well, isn't that great? Yes. And these festivals keep growing as well as the amount of tourism to the area too, doesn't it?
Oh, no, it's...
Since the road was paved, it's been a big boost to the...
Yeah. Well, thank you both very much.
That's all right.
What was her name?
Ara.
Ara. And thank you, Ara. You're a great person there. Bit itchy.
Oh, she's used to this.
Hill End is classified as a historical site by the National Parks and Wildlife Service. However, it is still the home to a handful of residents operating the local pub, general store, cake store and antique store. The National Parks and Wildlife Services runs a museum which is well worth visiting and is just off the main road. It contains many original photographs. National Parks and Wildlife Service has installed signs around the town to give visitors an idea of what it was once like in places that are now. In the late 1940s, Hill End was discovered by artist Russell Drysdale, who painted possibly his best known work, The Cricketers. Other artists soon became aware of the area and its beauty. Today, the Hill End Artist in Residence program aims to ensure the continuity of this connection in art. The most popular tourist activity in Hill End is gold panning, with some of the older members of the community running gold panning tours in the same fossicking areas that yielded the gold during the rush.
Could you tell me a little bit about what's going on today?
It is a festival of music, wine, foods, stalls of all sorts from around Bathurst and Mudgee areas, Golgong. Just a fun day for everyone.
And lots of people attending? We should be very pleased. Is this held every year, is it?
This is the 4th year.
Right. Now I also believe that if people are involved in tours or things, could you tell me a bit about that?
I think there's tours down in the SA office, learning about gold and that. In the church there's a, what do you call it? Printing press. Yeah, printing press. And then there's movies and speeches and singing about the women of the 1800s that formed this community.
Very good.
Very good day.
And what sort of tours are you involved with? Are you involved with any? You don't?
No, nothing.
Do they? Yes. Did
Just
you
here to
say
have a
you?
good time. This is just home.
Yes. You live in this.
Yeah, this is home.
Oh, right.
Where I was born.
Yes. Since I was here 15 years ago, a lot has happened. There's been a lot of development in display things. Is that right?
A lot of the buildings have been done up and changed, and the national parks try and do well. They keep all the grounds nice and clean, and very good.
Well, it's been lovely talking with you both.
Thank you.
Congratulations on having such a tourist-based place. Yet it would be a very restful place too.
It is. It's very nice when it's empty.
Yes.
Inside the mountain I see fire, burning the trees I see fire, hollow souls I see fire, blood in the breeze. Now I hope that you remember me. Confronting mountain halls, we got too close to the flame, calling out for the road. And if the night is burning up, cover my eyes. And if the dark returns, and my brothers will die. And as the skies fall down, rush into the stormy town without shadow on the ground. I hear my people screaming out, and I see fire inside the mountain. I see fire burning the trees.
Musos, and first prize is $350, second prize is $150, third is $50, and fourth is $40. So everybody gets a prize. Yay!
Currently, only a handful of buildings remain in their original state. However, most of these buildings still serve the purpose they did during the gold rush. Access to the town's lookouts is via gravel roads. A walking track in the town leads to a mine.
And first prize.
Looking at the quiet tree-shaded village of Hill End today, with its district population of just 140, it is difficult to imagine that in the 1870s, 8,000 people lived and worked here, all attracted by the chance to find gold, some of whom met with great success. Photographic prints provide clear glimpses of many aspects of life at that time, and some people take a closer look at other remnants. Even the teachers and pupils of the local small school at Hill End found that they had a lot to learn on just such an excursion. Teacher in charge, Jane Ray.
Well, this excursion today has been the culmination of a study of our local area. The children, of course, love the mine. That's always the big attraction. But I think just generally seeing all the sites around Hill End and where things used to be. Now a lot of it's just vacant blocks, and to actually refer back to slides of what used to be there, I think the children really found that fascinating.
Righto. Well, we're going to have a look around our town today. We have a lot of other people coming here from all parts of Australia. We have them coming here from all parts of the world to have a look at our little town. And although we're small, we play a big part in Australia's history.
Malcolm Drinkwater is always very supportive of the school, and he has come down on a number of occasions already during our unit of work.
We weren't just a tiny little town. We were the second largest town in New South Wales. People didn't go to other places to buy goods and bits and pieces. They came to Hill End, because Hill End was where all the money was. Hill End was where the gold was, and the gold was the key word. Now we're going to have a look around the town, and we're going to see some of the sights of the town, some of the important parts of the town that have changed a lot over the last 100-odd years. The most important thing to remember is the fact that the church was never finished. And that tells you how quick the gold rush finished, because they never finished building the church. You would have seen the lights as we walked in. They're oil. They would have a stick with a hook on the end of it, and they'd run that stick up and put the hook through this eyelet, and they'd pull the lights down to there. Then they could take the cap off the light. They could adjust the wick, light it, and put the cap, which is the mantle, back on it, and adjust the flame to give them their brightness. Are we ready? Yes! Let's go walking. Now later on today we're going to go underground into the Bald Hill mine. When we go underground we're going to try and understand how the land changes over millions of years, which is a long, long time. But change can occur over 100 years.
Malcolm Drinkwater obviously delights in bringing history to life in the little village. So how did he become involved?
I'm a gold miner by trade. I've spent 20 years in the Hill End area, and of that I've spent 5 years underground. And in that time I was always asked questions, you know, where do you find gold? What does it look like? And within a very short time I started to take guided tours. The tours are aimed at the school students who frequent or visit Hill End for the purpose of studying their gold unit. There are in excess of 300 schools visit Hill End yearly. Now, with Australia, our gold is mostly in what's called quartz veins. So when we go underground, we look for a special type of rock, and it's quartz, and it occurs in a seam in the earth. Now we're ready to go inside the mine. Before we go in, we have to fit safety helmets. Slide the pin along, that's it, and you place it into another hole so that you can make the helmet smaller or larger to fit your head. And we've got some mine tour tickets to give you, which shows you what the mine looks like. Everything's here, especially with an underground mine where the children can walk through and they can see what it was like to be a gold digger from the 19th century. They can see the implements used, and they can see all of a sudden where the gold is. They know then that it's a very simple pattern. And we're going to have a look at some quartz veins, and we walk in 100 metres into the hill. And with that 100 metres into the hill, we go into two little display rooms. And we've come in to have a look at this. Quartz veins, that's it. This rock here is too hard for a Ballarat pick to have any effect. So that's where we use explosives. We drill holes in the rock, we put explosives at the end of the hole, and then we plug up the hole with a bit of mud. In the old days, today we use paper. Now at the finish of the display rooms, we have a 33-metre shaft to the surface. There are 10 ladders. It's like going up an 8-storey building, just the way the old blokes did.
Hello, 24.
Keep coming.
Gee, it's scary. Come on.
When they get out of the top of that, they think that they're the greatest in the world.
Sam, you've just come up through the Bald Hill mine. What did you think of it down there?
I thought it was a bit scary, but the fourth ladder was the darkest, and it was all wet and slippery a bit on the ladders.
What new things did Patrick notice on this, his second trip into the mine?
All the quartz veins and all the rocks and tools and all that, and the holes. I think I'd like to be a miner, but it would be pretty scary going down the mine shafts. You'd have to rely on the things, otherwise isn't that?
Some buildings in Hill End have changed very little, like the mining registrar. That small building today stands totally abandoned, although it's owned by the National Parks and Wildlife Service. It took care of the purchase of gold, the lodgement of mining claims, the settlement of mining disputes. That little yellow window was the teller's window. That's where you went to deposit your gold and you received a receipt. The original post office was a wattle and daub building. When the population increased, the post office needed a bigger premise. That building became the nowadays post office of Hill End. It's a large building built out of rock and brick, a little bit more opulent than the earlier wattle and daub building, which later on became part of the Great Western Stores. It was originally built as the Dodds Family Hotel and later became the Inn Athol, and now is a private residence that is leased from the National Parks and Wildlife Service. Opposite the building was the Tattersall's Hotel, Creasy's Hotel, the European Hotel, J.K. Weir's Cricketers Arms Hotel. Clark Street was the busiest street in Hill End. 17 hotels alone in Clark Street, and some of them very majestic buildings. Today, it's the emptiest street of Hill End, with only 2 or 3 buildings of any great prominence.
Is this the first excursion around the village for this particular group of children?
No, the primary children went on a walk. The very first day we began the unit, we walked the town and just generally had a good look at signs of what used to be there. They then had to choose a building that they particularly liked the look of, and they went off and did a pencil sketch of it and came back with their productions, which were really excellent.
Rebecca and Ben told us more about the maps.
First of all, we did a bit of research at school on the town and some of the buildings in it, and then we went out on an excursion around the town. We did a rough copy on the way, and then when we came back we did these good copies here, and for the things that are there we put squares, and for the things that used to be there we put crosses.
The main idea of doing these maps was to show how busy it was in the 1800s.
The local excursion is really just one part of a large unit on gold mining and the history of Hill End. Jill Firth, who teaches the lower division students, told us of the many other activities.
We've done a lot of local area studies, and we've made out town maps and built a town with cardboard. And then last year also we had a centenary here with Halterman, and the children dressed up in period costume and we enacted the old school days. Yesterday we went gold panning, and some children had never been gold panning. So over the next 2 days we'll do some bush dancing. The children have learnt quite a few dances, and they'll be able to make their own damper, and we've got a spinning wheel, so we'll do some spinning too, just to continue the recreation of the old days.
Our history started with the land, with wool, but it has been gold that thrust us into nationhood, and it plays a very big part in Australian history. Hill End is on-site history.